Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining this session. Unfortunately, I have to let you guys know Richard Turner-Jones, who was meant to be presenting for this session, has unfortunately come up with a pretty bad migraine, and he is unable to actually run this session for us. But what I'll be doing is actually playing a recording of one of our weekly webinars where we had Alwyn Hunt actually introducing Adobe Substance 3D. And one of the great news about that is it is now available also in K-12. So all the schools now have access to Adobe Substance.
Well, hello everyone. It's Jerry Wong here from the ANZ Adobe Education team. Welcome to our weekly webinar series, and in today's session, we will be sharing some exciting news about Adobe Substance. I will be your moderator today, and your presenter is Alwyn Hunt, Head of Education Partnerships, 3D and Immersive. Alwyn will tell you more about this exciting new development in education. In higher ed, universities and TAFEs have been enjoying complimentary access to Adobe's 3D tools, and now K-12 schools can take advantage of the 5 new apps as part of the Creative Cloud lineup. All educators can now elevate their classroom with cutting-edge 3D technology from Adobe Substance. So in today's session, we will explore the innovative capabilities of these powerful industry-standard tools. We will delve into the features that Adobe Substance offers for creating stunning 3D contents, and participants will also learn about the practical techniques and resources to integrate these tools into their curriculum, making lesson plans more engaging and visually captivating. So now I will pass on to Alwyn, and if you have any questions, please pop it in the chat.
Yeah, there's a few questions already in there, Jerry. I think people's microphones and cameras have been turned off, so I'm not too sure if you want to enable them. Yeah, thanks for inviting me on, Jerry. This I'm going to run through because we haven't got too much time and there's quite a bit of content to cover, because I wanted to just touch on each of the applications. So I'm just going to share my screen and we can get into it. I'm not too sure in terms of what the standard format for this is, but if people feel like they need to ask questions as we're going along, then please feel free to do so. So I'm just going to grab this one, share my screen. Can you see that okay, Jerry?
Yep.
All good. Okay, cool. So yeah, as Jerry mentioned, I heading up partnerships now, not just education. So what that means is I was and still am doing education partnerships, but I also have a team of people that deal with partnerships with software and hardware and content as well. So we're pretty busy. So yeah, my background is before Adobe and Substance, I was working in the visual effects industry, and I worked on big shows like The Hobbit and Game of Thrones and a number of different big Hollywood blockbuster movies. So I'm just going to scrub through this because it is quite long, but I specialized as a character texture artist. So that means that when we look at the dragon, for example, I got to add all that sort of skin and texture detail to the actual character itself. So this is where Substance comes into play. It is for creating materials on 3D objects. So these are some of the shows that I worked on. Like I said, I'm just scrubbing through this. I worked on all the characters for John Carter, characters for Alice in Wonderland, etc. So that's a little bit about my background. Now, when I was asked to do this, I wanted to, because it is quite new with K-12 or high schools now using Substance, and I just wanted to do a little bit of research on what is currently being used. And actually, I've got a bit of a survey at the end, which Jerry's going to post in the chat, because I just want to find out more information about some of the tech that's currently being used at the high schools. I know there is, having been to my son's school who's using SketchUp and a little bit of CAD, there's Blender, there's a bit of everything kind of thrown in there. And for me, when I go into schools and do sort of school talks, some of the software I find is just really intimidating in terms of like how technical it can be, and I'm afraid that, you know, that scares a lot of people off. So what I'm going to show you today will hopefully, you know, just reinvigorate students' enthusiasm for 3D in some ways. These programs that are currently being used, you know, Autodesk, Maya, Blender, Unity, Unreal, they're all very big programs that are used in the industry. They are mainstream 3D programs. So Substance talks to all these programs, and we're going to have a look at how they integrate. So when we look at sort of the current curriculum, how Substance aligns obviously with digital and technology, visual arts, media arts courses, it slots in there really nicely with your current pipeline or technology. So like I said, we have a really we have a person that's dedicated to integration with other bits of software. So yeah, it's pretty seamless in terms of how you can use Substance now. And there's, you know, introducing industry standards there. So there's PBR, which means physically based rendering. These are kind of some new workflows that are being standardized within the industry. And what we're seeing, you know, is a lot more newer industries that are now adopting 3D. So traditionally, you'd think of films, games, as being, you know, that's my background, and these are the more sort of traditionals. But now we're seeing automotive design companies, you know, digital fashion, product design, creating digital twins, architectural visualization. So we, you know, as Adobe and 3D are actually more interested in some of these new industries that are adopting 3D. We're at the forefront of films and games. The Substance 3D suite came from games. It's been in that space and film visual effects for many years, and is an industry standard there. So, you know, students that are learning this software early on are going to have some fantastic opportunities for some of these other industries later on. So, and yes, easy onboarding. So when we look at 3D Sampler and Painter, what I call Painter Photoshop for 3D, it's essentially the same workflow, the same layer stack, the same sort of, I guess, processes that you go through when you're using programs like Photoshop or Illustrator. It's a very similar workflow. And how do you get, you know, how do you use Substance 3D? Well, if you're using programs like Blender and Maya and SketchUp and all the rest of it, if you're able to export out those models, then Substance is able to ingest those 3D models straight into Substance Painter. Programs like Fusion 360, if you're needing to do other things like create UVs, and I won't get too technical with that, but Substance generates that for you. So essentially, if you're able to output a 3D model, then Substance will be able to read it. This is a little bit of a video of, you know, things that have been textured and materials being added using Substance. And I just wanted to show this because it does show a wide breadth of industries that are using Substance. One of our biggest customers is Nike, and you know, we have, you know, there's lots and lots of, and then you see there Hugo Boss using it for digital fashion, all the way through to you know, to construction, to engineering, all the different industries. But you can see here just the level of realism that you're able to achieve using Substance materials. So these materials are already pre-made. So it's as simple as drag and drop these materials onto a 3D model, and you know, you get these amazing looking materials. I'll just let that, I'm going to scrub through that a little bit because we're strapped for time. But yeah, actually I'm going to pause there, but you can see just all the micro details that you're able to get out of these materials, which are very impressive. So I'll just scrub through that, let the watch play. That's pretty cool. All right, push through that one. Yeah, and this is automotive design. So actually one of the last partnerships I did was with a university in the US, and with Rivian, which is an EV company based in the States. And yeah, it's really a successful partnership actually. So here, just again, I'm just sort of highlighting some of the new industries. So obviously games is where the techs come from. We look at visual effects, you know, if you're wanting to work at ILM or Pixar or DreamWorks or any of these companies doing high-end Hollywood blockbuster movies, then this is the tech that's being used for it. and like I mentioned, we're some of these new industries that are currently embracing. So we've got digital fashion, we've got product design, automotive design, etc. Again, these are just examples of some of the product shots that companies are using now, and there's a big shift into digital twins, and the reason why is that companies are realizing that they don't have to spend millions of dollars on photo shoots when they could actually create a digital twin of their product and then be able to use it for things like VR, for AR, for 3D configurators, for e-commerce. It just has a much longer tail that companies can utilize that 3D product with. You can be promoting it marketing wise before the actual product gets physically made. So yeah, there's a number of different reasons. I'm just going to push through this stuff because I want to show you what the products look like. Architectural, we've got digital fashion, footwear design. So let's have a look at the collection. So currently we've got Modeler. Modeler is our 3D application. So you can sculpt in VR or on your desktop. You can seamlessly shift between both platforms. It's very organic. My son uses it. It's great. It's very intuitive, easy to use. You can then export out that model and bring that straight into Painter, or then you've got Sampler and Designer. So these two are really about material creation. So say, for example, you've seen in the real world a material that you were like, oh, I'd love to create that in the digital world. You can take a photo of that and then be able to drag and drop that photo into Sampler, and it will digitize it for you. So it does a few things, but essentially it will create a tileable digital texture that then you can map onto your 3D. Designer is where you're creating a material from the ground up. So you can go as fine as creating cotton weaves, to creating, digital sort of like brick walls or whatever it may be. You're essentially creating that from the ground up without using photography. And it's a very, very powerful program. Students that know that actually in the gaming industry will just get hired off the back of knowing that piece of software. And then you got Substance Painter, which I referred to before as Painter, as Photoshop for 3D. And again, that's my favorite tool. So that's where you're bringing in the 3D model, you're bringing in your materials and assigning all that stuff, and then you're able to add all the imperfections. So maybe you wanted to add buttons or stitches or rips or dirt or whatever it may be. That's where you can do all that sort of stuff. And then Stager is where you take all that stuff and you drop it into a lighting environment for a really easy way to render and light a 3D object. It's super easy to use. There's a few other new ones that are currently in beta. So Substance 3D Viewer is what we're calling sort of Acrobat for 3D. So it will read any 3D file. It's got our version of Firefly in there, so you can generate backgrounds and do some cool things inside of that little application as well. And automation, I won't get into that too much today, but that's looking at, say, product design and being able to scale that. So once you've created that 3D asset, how can you then add different materials to it with different backgrounds and be able to automate that whole process? And the last one is our very own asset library. So this is a web-based asset library where we have over 20,000 assets on here of already existing models that you can download. Currently, it's not accessible for high schools, but this is a big push that I'm doing at the moment. So hopefully I'll have some good news for you around that. I'm pushing to make that free for education as well. But there are 3D assets that ship with each of the applications by default. So you'll find a number of things on there. And there's also a community 3D asset website, which is completely free for everybody to download any asset from there. We just, as an Adobe team, we don't quality control that stuff, but there is a lot of assets on there. This is a really good visual that I just wanted to show. After I sort of explain this, people are like, oh, what does that do again? But this is kind of a good visual. Modeler creates the 3D garment, Sampler, Designer, and the 3D asset. You can grab materials or create your own materials and then be able to assign that inside of inside of Painter where you're able to add stitching detail, your stress marks, your logos, your labels, all that sort of stuff. And then Stager, you're able to create your own sort of environment, be able to light that And then obviously we've got AR way down the other end, where if you wanted to do that AR experience, you could then import that in there as well. So this is a little sort of a sneak peek at Substance 3D Modeler. Like I said, you can shuffle between the headset and your desktop. You can see even from here, it's a very simple UI, and yeah, it's a lot like taking a piece of clay and then being able to push and pull and sculpt and do all that sort of stuff. It's like I said, very, very easy to use. I'll scrub through that because I think this shows the whole thing. So you've gone from, yeah, so actually I can show a little bit of this. So say you finished in Modeler, this is where that 3D has then been imported into Substance Painter, and you've got your layer stack here, and you're using masks to blend between your different layers. And you can see over here, we've got a whole bunch of different assets that ship with Substance Painter. So logos, you can bring in alphas, you can bring in your favorite Photoshop brushes. You've got a whole material library there. So if you didn't want to, create your own materials, you can simply drag and drop straight onto the model. And here, this is then sending it across into Stager, where you've got some basic 3D shapes there, and then you've got some light rigs that you can generate that lighting with, and be able to really just stage that asset how you want, and then be able to render it straight from there. So that kind of shows the pipeline of the applications actually. So, and yeah, just with any of these programs, we talk a lot about interoperability within Adobe. So how we can take a 3D model and then be able to use something that we've created in Illustrator or Photoshop and then be able to bring them into the 3D programs, or vice versa. So there's a lot of work been going on there. So even inside of Illustrator now, you can access Substance materials already. You can generate some 3D. You can set up live links between these bits of software as well. This is a bit of a snapshot of Substance Painter. Again, so you can see there the layer stack. I can bring in my own images, and you're getting all these different effects with the different materials there. I'm going to scrub through that. We go through this. You can add your own text. You can bring in, so if you've got Illustrator files or Photoshop files, you can literally drag and drop that into the viewport as a graphic, and then be able to start texturing in 3D there. And you can see here, just using a mask, you can block things out pretty quickly, and have a lot of fun in that. So, and that's a look at Stager, which we looked at. Let's push through this one. So again, you're able to generate your own import in your own backgrounds here. There's a really cool button there that is called Match Image. So it will actually check the camera perspective. It will look at the background image and use that to light the object. So you just get better integration, but it's a one button push, which is amazing, which is awesome as well. Again, you can bring in your own Illustrator files there and map that onto the 3D as well. Here's a bit of a look at the 3D asset library. This is just snapshot. Everything that's in this library has been UV'd. It's production ready. Students can literally download it and be able to use these in projects. I was even talking to my son the other day who was building something, and I think it was in Minecraft, or was it Fortnite or something. And I was like, oh, you can just download these models and be able to use them straight away. So there's like I said, there's over 20,000 assets there, and the really good quality as well. Okay, where do you go to learn all this? The big question. So I created this learning resource page, and Jerry's going to post that in the chat. So what I've done here is really compiled a lot of information. So, for those people that are actually new to 3D, actually I'll just scrub back through here. Adobe did a really great starter series, and it just talks about some of the terminology that's used in 3D, like UVing and quads and stuff like that. So it's all you can watch these videos. They're just short. They're really great, and if that's where you need to start from, then it's a very good starting point. And then for each of the different applications, I've kind of created a starter pack. So for teachers' resources, there's a whole bunch of different links here. So I think Jerry's going to post them in there. We've got our YouTube channel. There's Substance 3D Learn. It's kind of scattered far and wide. That's hence the reason why I wanted to create this page. And there's the Substance team that are creating their own content as well. So you can go on here and have a quick look. There's also, if I scrub down, for each of the applications, whoops, I'm just, whoa. Let's just bring that back to here, and I'll just pause it there. For each of the applications, you've got these links, which are first steps in using Substance 3D Player. These are really great tutorials for people that have never used it before. So yeah, I've created that for each of the applications. You can see there for Substance Painter, getting started, your first steps. It's a really great resource, this page, to really begin the journey. And yeah, that's, like I said, Jerry's going to post it in the chat if he hasn't already. I think he has. That's the QR code for that. And where else is there? There's also a Substance 3D Discord server, which, if you ever get stuck from an educator's perspective, then you can go in there and ask questions. The team is in there and they will answer you directly. And then, yeah, there's all those beginners courses that are on YouTube. All those links are actually on that resource page that are created. And just to kind of wrap it up before we ask some questions, yeah, this is the survey that I just thought, I'd be really curious to hear about you and what you're teaching students, what sort of level of 3D is being taught at your school, if at all. I think, when we look at it through an Adobe lens, there's all these new industries that are now embracing it. So I see a lot of opportunity for students that are learning some of these skill sets. And they're very exciting industries. And I think, with that skill set, it's going to set them up for some very cool jobs in the future. And I think that is it. Yeah.
Wow.
I was just going to quickly, Jerry, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for a sec. And then what I was going to do was just I'll share my screen, and I'm going to do this one. Yep. Cool. And what I wanted to do was just actually show people where it is. So if you're unfamiliar, then actually you can, inside your Creative Cloud desktop, if you come across to apps, there's this little menu up the top, 3D and AR. So this is all the Substance applications that I was talking about before. So you can access them. So now these should be, and if you still see, trial version or try trial or get trial or whatever it is, then you need to talk to your IT department and ask them to deploy it. Hopefully it's already automatically just unlocked for you. And you can go through and start playing around with these applications. You can click on the little burger menu here, and you can see there's explore tutorials. So you can start accessing some of those links that I was showing you before. I think this goes to a page. It's not Education Exchange. Where's this one take you to? Just waiting for that to load. So this is a bespoke 3D. So you can come in here and you can see some of the training that's already been added here. Some of these links, yes, first steps into Substance 3D Painter, you'll find on my resource page as well. I just tried to simplify it a little bit. The second page I wanted to show you was the 3D asset library that I was talking about. So this is 3D asset library through the web. You can also access that, and I'm just going to pull that back up on. So if I come here, you can access it through here, 3D asset library. And here's the community one as well. I'm just going to open that up so we can check that out. So you can access it there as well. The other place that you can go to is Stock and Marketplace. This link down the bottom of your Creative Cloud desktop. And then you've got the 3D that's sitting at the end. That will also take you to the asset library. The one thing that it doesn't show here is, oh no, it's got models. It's got models. Okay. No, I thought it didn't have models, but you can see here it's got all these models. So if I wanted to sort by industry, or if I actually wanted to look at, say, what do we got here? Let's look at food and drinks. You can see that we've already got, like all these different types of 3D models here. So if I click on one of those models, I can then download that, and it will download as a FBX, I believe it is. And yeah, FBX format there. And you can, yeah, it's already been UV'd, it's ready to go, it's ready to have textures added to that. Now, if I come back up and I go to all, if I go to surfaces, for example, and maybe I want to look at food, I would look at, what do we got? Organic, sort of organic stuff here. And you can see we've got, you know, there's chickpeas and these. So all these types of these materials and these you can simply drag and drop that straight onto your 3D model. If I click, so I can click download here and it will download to my downloads directory, or I can send it straight to Substance, Substance Painter, Sampler, or Stager. It gives me the option there, and then it'll just land in my shelf that I can then simply drag and drop that straight onto my 3D. So if I downloaded, say, a lemon from the 3D asset library, you can see here we've got a material with a lemon skin, so I can assign that straight to that lemon, and I get this realistic looking lemon straight away without having to do anything. And you can see there it's procedural as well, which means I can change aspects of that, which is super cool. Check out the library. It is amazing. Like, honestly, every time I go in here, I'm just always blown away with the all the different materials. And if I go back across to the library, and what I might do here is just click into one on the library, because I think it gives me a couple more different options. So yeah, I can download that file. Oh, I'm not signed in. Actually, I'm not signed in. I need to sign in. It just gives me a couple of different file for. Oh no, I'm signed in here actually. Let's just have a look. I don't know why it said that. Materials, and say I'll click on this brick wall, and from this one material, it gives me a whole. So you can see some of the presets here. So with this one material, what I get is a bunch of properties that I can then change on the fly. So that's what it means by fully procedural. So if I wanted to change the spacing between the grout there or the size of the brick, then I have a whole bunch of sliders that I can quickly change the look and the feel of this brick wall, or the color, or how shiny the surface is. I wanted to see, I think they've taken the viewer out actually. You used to have a viewer in here where I could be able to do that on the fly. Don't think I can. So yeah, it's extremely powerful. How much time do I have, Jerry?
Well, you actually been going very quick.
I'm going very quick. Okay.
Another 5 minutes.
All right. Oh, I still got 5 minutes. Only 5 minutes.
Yeah, a little bit. I can give you a little bit longer if you want.
Okay.
We're just 30 minutes in.
Okay, cool. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, just throw them in the chat. I can answer as we go.
There is one question, Alwyn.
Okay.
Rachel was asking, we know that the Substance apps are available for anyone that's already got an All Apps or Creative Cloud license, but do you know about the shared device for classroom deployment?
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't know how that licensing works for shared device. I mean, I think it's just a case of talking to the ID department so they can deploy it within the package. I mean, you probably know better than me, Jerry, if that's the case. But yeah, I think it's just a case of talking to the IT department, really.
Okay, so yeah, well, we'll find out, Rachel, and we'll come back to you when we actually sort of send out the wrap up.
Yeah, so cool.
Hold that thought.
What I was going to do, I was just going to quickly show, where do we go here? I'm going to just jump up to software demo and then do Painter, and then let's do sports shoe. Open that. So this is me, and I'm going to just reset the viewport, and just so that you can see everything once that loads up. I'm going to just drop that into 3D mode. So we'll do 3D only, and then we've got a sneaker here. So this is, and then I'm just going to go window, and I'm going to just reset UI so everything comes back across here. So for inside a Painter, you've got both the 2D and the 3D view. So you can see here the sneaker, with anything in 3D, you need a 2D and you need a 2D representation of it. It's kind of like whenever, so if I just go on here, for example, I'm just going to do a new layer. Actually, I'm going to just click on that piece and I'm going to do a new layer up here. So I'm just going to go new layer. So say, for example, I just wanted to click this this rope material, and it's going to come up very large, but you can see there now it's coming through my brush, and I can paint directly on that section there, which I have selected. So there's a number of different ways that I can do that. I can paint, or if I wanted to, I could actually drag and drop this on here, be able to move it around on my surface, and then be able to tile that. Or I could do something like, I'll just delete that again. I can just drag it completely on there and it will cover it. And then I would change the tiling to something like probably 12. And then, you know, I've got this 3D shoe that's using that rope texture on there. So you can see that with this, I'm just literally, so if I wanted to, any of these materials on here, I can just drag and drop it straight onto the actual shoe itself. So I'm adding this rusty old material. It's gonna drop it on here. It's just loading up. You can see it loading down the bottom. So you can see now it's loading that up, and it's very, very simple. I'm not doing anything crazy, and you can see that heavy rusted has just been added to my layer there. So if I wanted to delete that, I could. If I wanted to delete that rope, then I could go back to there. And you know, all I'm doing is then using masks. So if I wanted to add a black mask, I right click on that layer and now it's gone. But if I wanted to bring that back, then I can paint through. Now if I check out my mask, it's the same as what I'm doing in Photoshop. So it's really easy to be able to do that. And you can see, you know, some cool stitching detail there. There's tools for that. So we've got a path tool similar to Illustrator, where I can add a new layer, and I can select that path tool, and I'm going to select a brush. I just do that and we go back up the top, and I've got this top stitch brush here. And now I can start creating these stitches along the surface. Now, if I want to, I'm going to turn that off so you can see the stitching there. What's cool about this is that it's actually fully procedural. So if I wanted to change, say, the size of the stitch, you can see there it's changing. If I wanted to change the style of the stitch, so maybe I want to change it from straight stitch to a triple stitch, it does all this really, really quick for me. And at any stage, I can come back and be able to add or move or add more things on here. I can, you know, if I wanted to add another line there and be able to do that. If I wanted to, harden edges or corners, I can do all that sort of stuff. So you can see, and if I wanted to change the color of the stitch to make it red as well, I can do that. So it's really, really fun and easy to use, you know, these really powerful tools on, and this is how it's done in games and visual effects. So if your students, you know, enjoy sort of that 3D space, then Substance Painter is an amazing tool to be able to use. What else have we got? There's fun things like if I add a new layer here, I can grab I'm going to grab a particles brush, so we can come down and, you know, if I wanted to add something like this, and then I can paint, got a color, get a brush. You can see it's got like a particles brush there, so I can kind of get that sort of dirty look or whatever it is. It's actually just using gravity to do some painting for me on that surface. So yeah, you can have a lot of fun with all the. There's not a huge amount of tools. That's, you know, like you've got, like I said, you can bring in your favorite Photoshop brushes. You've got, you know, these materials that ship with Substance Painter by default. If I wanted to access the library, there's another tab up here, so you can see all those materials. I could then click on that and it would load inside my shelf. There is masks, you know, smart masks that, you know, help me with doing edge wear and stuff like that. So in terms of off the shelf, being able to use something and use it really quickly, it's, yeah, a lot of this is already pre-made for us, which is fantastic. All right, I'm going to stop sharing there, and maybe we can open it up to questions, because I'm sure there's a bunch. And I'm curious to hear what everyone is using as well.
Well, we got 2 questions.
Two? Only 2, Jerry?
Oh, they're just all excited to see, and they're just processing all the information right now. Well, Timothy Cosgrove actually was just asking, like, so this a new addition to K-12, that's global, isn't it? That's
global.
All K-12.
Yeah.
Yep. Thought so.
Yep.
So that's great news there. So Tim, if you're not seeing that, I would
Tim,
double check
Tim
that.
said he's got access to the 3D assets. That's interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. That'd be something that
So
might
actually,
need to double check.
One thing to note there as well that I haven't added, that is there is a free version for students and teachers, but it's actually it's not for commercial. So if you wanted to learn Substance at home, then you can go to this page and be able to download this, or to use the software. I'm just gonna, as long as you've got an education email, you can use it. So I'm just pulling up that page. Oh my God, here we go. There, compares. Yeah, this page here. I'll put it in the chat. It's interesting. The link's broken at the moment. That happens actually. But this is the page that you need to go to be able to access the student teacher license, free license. But it's actually down at the moment. I'm going to have to make a note of that.
Right. And we've got a question from Erin asking, do you work with a mouse or stylus as your preference?
Yeah, good question. I used to work with a stylus when I'm as an artist. I used to work. Yeah, I used to have a Wacom tablet. More recently, I've sort of I've got it up here actually. My Wacom tablet. It's still sitting there. But yeah, I've just been using my mouse lately. But I recommend using a tablet. It's not a requirement, but in terms of getting a more natural, I guess, artistic feel when you're sculpting and drawing and painting and stuff like that, having a stylus is much more natural.
Great, thank you. And I'll just reply to Daniel. There won't be an option directly from the software to reach out to your admin, but do reach out to them for them to have a look at the admin console.